I never thought I'd be the kind of man who could cheat. Not once in 15 years of marriage had I even entertained the idea. My wife, Emma, and I had built a life that looked solid from the outside. High school sweethearts, a modest home, shared dreams, even some struggles that we overcame together. I always thought our foundation was strong enough to survive anything, until it wasn't. The cracks weren't loud. They crept in like rot behind a wall. Long work hours, quiet dinners, and fewer kisses goodbye. I told myself it was normal. Everyone hits that mid-marriage lull, right?
We just needed time.
The problem was I didn't have much of it to give. My boss, Catherine, made sure of that. Catherine wasn't just my boss. She was the rising star of the company. Sharp, charismatic, and always 10 steps ahead. I'd been promoted under her leadership 6 months ago, and she made it clear she saw potential in me. At first, I thought she was just a strong mentor. She gave good advice, included me in high-level meetings, trusted my opinions. It felt good to be seen. At home, I felt like a shadow. At work, I mattered. Our interactions started professionally, but there was an undercurrent. I ignored it. When she laughed a little too long at my jokes, or stood a little too close, I told myself it was just her personality. Confident.
Warm.
Friendly. I was overthinking it. Still, I found myself looking forward to our meetings a bit too much. Emma noticed, of course. One night, as I got home late again, she didn't nag or cry. She just said, "You're different." I denied it. I told her I was stressed. The promotion came with more pressure. She didn't push. That hurt more than if she had screamed. The distance between us was now a quiet canyon, and we were both just standing on either side, pretending we could still see each other. Things shifted one evening when Catherine asked me to stay late to review a client pitch. We ended up talking about life instead. She asked if I was happy, at work, at home, in general. I shrugged. She told me I had a quiet sadness about me. Said she saw it the first week I started reporting to her. Then she told me about her own divorce, how she wasted years trying to fix something that was already broken. Sometimes, she said, loyalty is just fear with a halo. I went home feeling guilty for how much that conversation meant to me. A few days later, she gave me a watch. A beautiful, expensive thing that I never would have bought for myself. She said it was a thank you for stepping up on a project. I hesitated. She brushed it off.
You deserve it, she said.
Let someone treat you for once. I lied to Emma about it. Said it was a bonus. She smiled and congratulated me, but her eyes didn't match her mouth. I felt sick inside. Not just from the lie, but because I didn't regret it. I liked the way Catherine made me feel. Important. Valued. Chosen. More late nights followed. More one-on-one talks. Sometimes we barely talked about work. She'd lean in when she spoke, touch my arm, laugh at nothing. She told me things no boss should share, about how lonely she was, how no one understood the pressure she was under. I listened. I shouldn't have. The guilt started to fade. I told myself I hadn't crossed any lines. I was still faithful. I still went home every night. But I knew what I was doing. I looked forward to her texts. I lingered after meetings. I stopped sharing things with Emma because Catherine already knew them. That's not innocence. That's preparation. Emma tried in her own way. She booked us a weekend getaway. I made excuses about work. She said, "Do you even want this marriage anymore?" I couldn't answer. The silence between us said more than either of us ever could. Then came the night everything tipped. Catherine and I had just finished a presentation for a major client. It went well, and she suggested we get a drink to celebrate. I said yes. One drink became 3. The conversation turned personal again. She told me she admired how controlled I was. How I didn't let people in easily. That I had depth. She said all this while looking right into me, like she already knew I was broken and didn't mind. Then she kissed me.
Just like that.
No warning. And I didn't pull away. We didn't sleep together that night. I told myself that meant I still had a line I wouldn't cross. But I kissed her back. I thought about her the whole ride home. When I walked into the house, Emma was asleep on the couch. There was a blanket folded beside her, She had left it for me. I looked at it and felt disgusted with myself. Then I stepped over it and went to bed. After that, things moved quickly. Catherine didn't pretend it didn't happen. She acted like it was a new chapter. She sent flirty messages, started calling me outside of work. One night she said, "You don't have to pretend anymore. I know you feel it too." And I did. That was the problem. I told myself I was stuck, that the marriage had been fading long before Catherine showed up, that Emma and I were just roommates now. I repeated that lie until it felt like truth. Then one night, Emma found one of the messages. I'd been careless. She asked me if I was cheating. I told her no, not technically. I'll never forget the way her face changed. Not angry, just hollow. Like something inside her cracked quietly. She didn't ask for details. She just said, "I hope she's worth it." I wanted to say she wasn't, that it hadn't gone that far. But the words didn't come. Because deep down, I think I wanted it to go further. I wanted the escape. The excitement. The version of myself I got to be around Catherine. But in chasing that, I stopped being the man Emma married. The next morning, I got a message from Catherine. "We should talk. It's time you stopped pretending." I didn't know what she meant then, but I'd soon find out. And it would change everything. I met Catherine at her condo that night. I told myself it was just a talk. I'd tell her things had gone too far, that we needed to slow down, that I still had a marriage to consider. But when she opened the door, she didn't say anything. She just kissed me, and this time, I didn't hesitate. I don't know how long we were like that. Long enough for the guilt to disappear and for something darker to take its place. She made me feel wanted in a way I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't love, it was ego, validation, power. I didn't care. I let it happen. Afterward, she looked at me like we'd crossed some sacred threshold.
Finally, she said.
No more pretending. I left in the middle of the night and drove around aimlessly for an hour before going home. Emma was asleep. I watched her for a moment and felt like a stranger in my own life. I had no idea how to look her in the eyes anymore. But I also wasn't ready to admit what I'd done. The next day, I acted normal. Went to work, made coffee, checked emails. Catherine acted like nothing had changed. She was friendly, polished, professional. No one would have guessed what happened between us. That almost made it worse. It was calculated, like she'd done this before. I avoided her for a few days, hoping the distance would kill whatever this thing was. But she didn't let up. She started calling me at night, asking about my day, what I was thinking, how I felt about us. She said us like it was obvious, like we were a real thing now. When I told her I needed time, she said, "Time for what? To keep lying to your wife." There was no venom in her voice, just quiet confidence, like she was sure I'd come around. Emma tried to connect again. She cooked my favorite dinner one night. I barely touched it. She asked if we could take a trip, just the two of us. I said work was too busy. She didn't argue. She just nodded, like she was cataloging every moment I pulled further away. The guilt was unbearable, but I didn't stop. I saw Catherine again. More than once. She told me she'd never felt this alive with anyone else. Said I was different.
Real.
I started believing it. I told myself I'd outgrown my marriage, that this was the universe pulling me towards something new. But really, I was just too deep in the lie to claw my way out. Catherine became bolder. She started making remarks in front of coworkers that only I understood. Little innuendos. Casual touches. People noticed. I could feel the shift in the room when we walked in together. The way others looked at us. I told myself I didn't care, but I did. One of my coworkers, Alex, pulled me aside. Said, "You might want to be careful. People talk." I nodded, laughed it off, but inside I panicked. This wasn't just a secret anymore. It was a noose tightening. That's when Catherine dropped the ultimatum. We were alone in her office after hours. She leaned against her desk, arms crossed, and said, "I need to know you're all in." I asked what that meant. She said, "Leave your wife. Be with me. Fully. No more half measures." I stared at her, unsure if she was joking. She wasn't. If you don't, she continued, this ends. And not just us. Your career, your reputation. I won't be the other woman. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten in the obvious sense. But the message was clear. Choose me or lose everything. I left without answering. At home, I stood in the hallway outside our bedroom for a long time. Emma was brushing her hair. She saw me in the mirror, paused, then turned around. Are you okay? She asked. I wanted to tell her everything. To fall on my knees and beg for forgiveness. Instead, I said the thing that would destroy what was left. I've been thinking, maybe we should take a break. Some time apart. She blinked, processing it.
Why?
I don't know. We're not us anymore. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just looked at me with this quiet heartbreak that hurt more than if she had screamed. If you walk away, she said, don't look back. I nodded, packed a bag,
Left.
I told myself it was temporary, just space. But I knew what I was doing. I moved into a rental downtown. Catherine called it a fresh start. I called it purgatory. Things with her moved fast. She helped furnish the apartment, brought groceries, stayed over most nights. It felt good. At first.
New.
Intoxicating. Like I was finally choosing myself. But it didn't take long before that feeling turned into something else. She became possessive. Started asking where I was every hour. If I didn't answer a call, she'd text 5 times. She wanted access to my phone just to build trust. She got upset if I mentioned Emma, even in passing. Once I said I felt guilty about how it ended. Her face changed instantly. She never fought for you, she said. She let you go. That says everything. It didn't feel right. None of it did. But I'd burned every bridge behind me, and I didn't know how to undo it without setting fire to what little was left. One afternoon, I got a call from Emma. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened to it alone. Her voice was calm, composed. She just said, I left some of your things at your sister's. I signed the papers. I didn't even know she'd filed for divorce. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, phone in hand, trying to breathe. I wanted to call her back. Apologize. Tell her I made a mistake. But I'd already said everything loud and clear. When I told Catherine, she smiled. Now we can really begin. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and realized I felt nothing. No joy. No freedom. Just loss. The kind that doesn't come with clean endings or easy justifications. I gave up the one person who would have stood by me through anything for what? A fantasy. A mirage that turned into a prison. And I wasn't even at the worst part yet. That came next. Things unraveled fast after that. The rush of the affair was gone. The illusion had faded. What I thought was freedom turned out to be a cage of my own making. I kept trying to convince myself that this was what I wanted, that I made the right choice. But every time I looked at Catherine, I saw the cost written all over her smile. She started talking about moving in together.
Not someday now.
She said it made no sense to keep 2 places when we were practically living together. I hesitated. She noticed. You're not having second thoughts, are you? I told her I wasn't. But the truth was I didn't even recognize myself anymore. At work, everything changed. People were colder. Conversations stopped when I walked into rooms. My project started getting reassigned. Asked Catherine about it, and she shrugged. You know how people are. They're just jealous. She made it sound like our relationship had to be a battle we fought together. Us against the world. Then one morning, I was called into HR. It was a short meeting.
Direct.
They were investigating allegations of inappropriate conduct between me and a superior. Catherine's name wasn't mentioned outright, but it didn't have to be. The whole office had seen us together. I denied it. Said we were friends. Professional. They didn't argue. Just told me I was being placed on temporary leave while they looked into it. When I told Catherine, she acted surprised. I didn't say anything, she insisted. Someone must have seen us. Asked if she could fix it. She looked at me like I'd insulted her. You think I control HR? Do you even trust me? That night, she cried. Said she felt like I was turning on her. That she gave up everything for me. Her reputation, her privacy, her peace. I held her and said it would be okay. But I didn't believe it. Days passed. No updates. Just silence. I tried calling Emma. I didn't expect her to answer, but she did. I told her what happened. That I might lose my job. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I warned you." I asked if we could meet. "Just talk." She said, "There's nothing left to say." And she was right. I started drinking more. Just enough to blur things. Catherine noticed. She said I needed to snap out of it. That I was dragging down the energy in the apartment. One night, we fought. She accused me of resenting her. I said nothing. She threw a glass across the room. It shattered. Just like everything else. The next day, I got the call. Terminated. Violation of company policy. No severance. No references. I sat on the floor, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Everything I'd built gone. My marriage, my job, my name. I felt hollow. Catherine tried to comfort me. Said we'd start fresh. Build something of our own. "Now there's nothing holding us back," she whispered. That's when it hit me. She sounded happy. She saw my collapse as freedom. I started pulling away. Not physically, I still lived there, but emotionally. I stopped talking as much. Avoided her touch. She noticed. Got paranoid. Started accusing me of cheating on her. Of wanting to go back to Emma.
She checked my phone when I slept.
She went through my drawers. One day, she showed up outside my sister's house unannounced. Said she was checking in. My sister called me afterward. Asked what kind of mess I was in. I told her I didn't know anymore. Catherine became unpredictable. She'd go from crying in the bathroom to demanding we look at real estate listings in the same hour. She said I owed her. That she risked everything for us. That I was ungrateful. And I started to believe her. I'd already lost everything. Maybe this was what I deserved. Then came the final push. One night, I came home to find my laptop open on the kitchen counter. Catherine was scrolling through an old email thread between Emma and me. Messages from years ago. She looked up and said, "You never stopped loving her, did you?" I told her to stop. That it was private. She laughed. There's no privacy in real love. Then she told me she'd emailed Emma. Told her everything. Said Emma deserved to know the full truth. I didn't believe her at first. But then I saw it, sent from my account. A forwarded message. With commentary. She needed closure, Catherine said. Now she has it. I left that night. No bag. No plan. I just walked out. I stayed with a friend for a few days. Tried to get my head right. Looked for jobs. No one would hire me. My name was attached to an HR scandal. My network had gone cold. I wasn't just unemployed. I was radioactive. I sent Emma a long message. Apologized for everything. Told her she didn't owe me anything, but I needed her to know how sorry I was. That I lost my way. That I destroyed everything we built. She replied a week later. I forgive you, but that doesn't mean I want you back. It was the kindest and cruelest thing she could have said. I started therapy. Not for redemption, just survival. I told the truth for the first time in months. The therapist didn't judge. Just listened. Asked why I let it all spiral. I said I didn't know. But deep down I did. I was afraid of being ordinary. Afraid of being invisible. Catherine didn't seduce me. She exposed the parts of me I'd buried under responsibility and routine. And I let it happen. One day, Catherine showed up outside my friend's place. She was crying. Said she missed me. That we could fix this. I told her I couldn't. That I needed to figure out who I was without her. She screamed. Called me a coward. Said I used her. That I was just another man who couldn't handle a strong woman. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was weak. But staying would have destroyed what was left of me. She left without another word. That was the last time I saw her. I started over. Slowly. Quietly. I picked up contract work. Got a part-time job at a tech startup. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. I stayed off social media. I avoided gossip. I lived small. Emma and I don't speak much now. She's dating someone else. I saw them once, holding hands outside a coffee shop. She looked happy. Not performative. Just genuinely at peace.
I wanted to say hi.
I didn't. Instead, I went home to my tiny apartment, sat on the couch, and breathed. That was the first time in months I didn't feel like I was drowning. And for now, that's enough. Months passed. I didn't hear from Catherine again. Not directly, anyway. I heard she left the company a few weeks after I was fired. Some said it was voluntary. Others claimed she was quietly pushed out. No one really knew. Or maybe no one cared anymore. That's the thing about scandals. They burn fast and fade even faster, but only for everyone else. For the people involved, they leave ashes that linger for years. I kept my head down. I worked. I saved. I started freelancing more. Built a quiet routine. Wake up early. Make coffee. No noise, no drama. Just structure. There was something comforting in the simplicity. Something I used to resent but now clung to. I didn't date.
I didn't want to.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure I ever would be. Every time I thought about trying, I'd see Emma's face. Not the face of someone I still wanted, but the face of someone I failed. I knew I couldn't give anything meaningful to someone new while I was still carrying that weight. My therapist told me I was grieving, not just Emma, not just the job, but the version of myself I'd spent years trying to become. The responsible man. The loyal husband. The reliable employee. I destroyed that man. And I hadn't figured out what came next. I got a call one evening from Emma's brother. We'd never been close, so I was surprised. He told me Emma's mother had passed. Cancer. Quiet, sudden.
He said he thought I'd want to know.
I thanked him. I asked if it would be appropriate to attend the funeral. He paused, then said, "It's your choice. But don't expect anything from her." I went. Sat in the back. Didn't say a word.
Emma saw me.
Our eyes met for a moment. She didn't smile. She didn't look away either. Just acknowledgement. That was enough. After the service, I walked past her on my way out.
She didn't stop me.
I didn't stop myself from hoping she would. But hope is dangerous when it's tied to guilt. It makes you believe you're owed a second chance just because you regret wasting the first. I went back to my life. I tried to keep moving forward. I applied for more jobs. Some interviews went well, some didn't. My resume was a minefield. I had to learn how to explain a clean break from a high-paying position without sounding like a liability. I eventually landed a remote role with a consulting firm. It was modest but stable. I finally felt like I was building again. Then, out of nowhere, Catherine called. Blocked number. Middle of the day. I almost didn't answer. I should have listened to that instinct. Her voice hadn't changed. Calm, rehearsed. She said she was in therapy too. That she was learning to take accountability. That she missed talking to me. She asked if I hated her. I said no. That would have been easier. She said she wanted to meet. Just one conversation. Closure. I told her I didn't think that was a good idea. She sounded disappointed, but didn't argue. She ended the call with, "I hope you find peace." And I finally understood how people can be sincere and manipulative at the same time. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I missed her, but because she reminded me of how easily I could fall again. One wrong move. One moment of weakness. And I'd lose everything I was finally beginning to rebuild. I deleted her number.
For real this time.
My world stayed small. And I was okay with that. I went for walks. I called my sister more. I made peace with silence. One day, Emma sent me a photo. No words. Just an old picture of us from a vacation in Maine. We looked happy. Genuinely. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, "I miss who we were." She replied, "Me too. But we're not those people anymore." That was it. I understood then that closure isn't always a clean break. Sometimes it's a slow, quiet acceptance. A whisper that says, "This chapter is over. Let it stay closed." I kept the photo. Not because I was holding on to the past, but because I needed a reminder of what I lost when I stopped choosing the things that mattered. Not every memory has to be erased. Some are warnings, not wounds. I stayed in therapy. I kept working. I learned how to be alone without being lonely, how to take responsibility without drowning in it. I stopped needing to be admired. I started needing to be honest. I ran into Alex, the coworker who warned me months earlier. We grabbed coffee. He said, "You look different. Lighter." I said, "It took losing everything to figure out what was worth keeping." He nodded. Sometimes that's the only way we learn. I didn't talk about Catherine or Emma. I didn't need to. Some things lose their power once you stop feeding them attention. I didn't want to be defined by the affair or the fallout. I just wanted to be someone I could respect when no one else was looking. There were still hard days. Memories came like waves, unexpected and sharp. Regret doesn't vanish. It just softens over time. But I didn't run from it. I let it remind me, not of who I was, but of who I refused to be again. A year later, I got an invitation to Emma's wedding. It wasn't from her. It was from her mother's friend, who hadn't realized we were divorced. I stared at the envelope, thought about showing up. Then I threw it away. Not because it hurt, but because I finally understood that some moments belong to others, and letting them have it without interference is a form of love, too. I never got revenge. I never got redemption. But I got clarity. And that's more valuable than either. Catherine was a mirror. She reflected everything I was too afraid to admit. My restlessness, my insecurity, my hunger for attention. She didn't create those things, she exposed them. Emma was the one who saw my potential. But I mistook comfort for stagnation. And by the time I realized the difference, it was too late. People say affairs are about passion. But really, they're about escape. From responsibility. From routine. From yourself. But no matter how far you run, you always end up back at the truth. And the truth is I chose this. Not Catherine. Not fate.
Me.
But now I choose something else. Quiet mornings. Honest conversations. Earned peace. Even if no one's watching. Especially if no one's watching.